Okay, welcome back, guys. And I'm going to start test building these NuNu kit, the Peugeot 306 Maxi. And I'm going to do it without too much cleaning up of the parts, and so that you all can see the fit and the quality of the parts. That's why I call it a review build. First, I mark down all the areas where the additional detail parts can be added on the instruction. Red for decals and then yellow for photo edges. I follow the instruction and start with step 1, which is the assembly of rear suspension. This area is important for the model to sit correctly, so you must refer to the instruction closely and make sure all the parts are put together in the correct manner. I check and double check and test fit all the parts, and here's the final assembly of the rear suspension. Next is to glue the suspension onto the bottom tray, and here you can see that I only trim off the gates with nipper. I haven't used any sanding paper or sanding stick to clean up the parting lines. Here I start installing the brake disc into the rear suspension. There are a couple of ejection marks on the brake disc that prevent the part to sit flush to the rear suspension, so you need to trim that off. After that, to follow step 2 on the instruction, it's also time to assembly the front suspension. Here you really need to combine step 2 and step 3 together, because you need the part C2 to hold the rest of the front suspension in place. And then it's time to glue the brake disc to the front suspension. With the addition of the exhaust system and the gas tank, it will complete the assembly of the underside of the chassis. If possible, I like to put glue on the backside of the joint. Next, we come to the assembly of the interior. Again, I just trim off the gates of the parts. I haven't used any sanding on these parts at all. All in all, the fit of parts are very good and very precise. And you can see the assembly of the interior here. Then we come to the roll cage. As usual, I use the interior base as a jig to assemble the roll cage. Step 6 is the assembly of the dashboard. As you can see here, the dashboard is really nicely detailed and the part fits really well, except that's a little sink mark on the top of the dashboard. With the addition of the steering column, that completes the dashboard assembly. Here, let's look at all the parts and the fit of the sub-assemblies that require to complete step 8. Again, I haven't cleaned up the parting line or performed any sanding on the parts. And obviously, some of the gates needs to be trimmed off later. And for clearer visualization, I have give everything a quick coat of primer gray. Here you can see some flesh on the rear spoiler and also the rear lights openings on the body, but they should be easy to be removed. Once again, since I have not do any sanding on the body, you can see that the parting line is quite difficult to find. So the engineering of the tooling is quite exceptional. Next, I need to test fit the decals. So I give the body a quick coat of white as a base for decaling. Following the instruction, I start testing the decals. I sand off the mold-on hood pins, which will be replaced by photo-etched parts. And then I start test fitting the decals. The decal only required a short dip in water, and then it will come off from the backing paper quite easily. I use Gunji's Mr. Mark Setter to position the decal onto the body. Since the size of the decal is very large, I put on a lot of setters and water to ensure that I can move the decal into the right position. After that's done, instead of using Q-tips, I like to use a soft brush, moving all the moisture and air from the center of the decal to the sides. and use the brush to absorb all the moistures. This way, there is less risk of moving the decal from its position. And then I'll coat the decal with Gunji's Mr. Mark Softer, which will make the decal shrunk onto the surface of the model. I will put on one more decal and then I'll do the rest off camera because it's gonna take a long time. When the mark softer is semi-dry, I use a brush to push the decal onto any nooks and crannies. Next is to test fit the carbon fiber decals on the door panels. Unfortunately, I find the decal terribly undersized, and it's difficult to have a single piece of decal that can completely conform onto a part that has so many details molded on. So I cut the decal where the air pockets were formed, and here is the result. Obviously, if I paint the panel black, the cuts will not be that obvious. Here is the decaling of the seats. Next, we come to the assembly of some of the photo-etched parts. First is the addition of photo-etched parts on the kit's step 1 and step 3. To prevent the bending of the thin metal, this is how I remove the plastic film. There is no issue with the fitting of the brake discs. As usual, I cut the photo-etched parts out from the thread with an ultrasound knife. Next is adding the photo-etched parts onto the radiator, step 9. While photo-etched part 33 dropped into place without problem, I found part 39 oversized, so I have to trim it down with a file. Here I use a hemostat to hold the part for filing. Here is the radiator with all the photo-etched parts added. And all these parts, 36, 37, 38, and 39 are oversized. So they all need a little filing. And here's the assembly of the interior with some quick painting on some parts and also the addition of detailing parts. After adding the spare wheel, I put the door panels on. Now you can see that I already darkened the area where the cuts were made on the decal, and the cuts become quite unnoticeable. And here is where the dashboard is fixed to the door panels. Here I make sure the molding seam of the tire facing inward. One interesting point about the tires from NuNu is when you try to smell it, they have the same smell as the tires in your car. They've used the same rubber that makes the real tires. Now you cannot get any more authentic than that. And here is the complete chassis and the interior. And here is the body completely decaled, with some of the window being glued on. For gluing of clear parts, I like to use UV glue. Instead of squeezing them out from the bottle directly, I dispose them onto a container. I also protect the clear parts with masking tape so I don't scratch them easily. Then I apply the glue to the joints with a brush. Since the glue won't solidify without the UV light, I have lots of time to do that carefully. And the glue cures instantly with the shine of the UV light. And then the brush can be cleaned with acetone. And here's the complete body, fully decaled. I removed the masking tapes on the windows in the same manner as I removed the plastic film from the photo-etched threads. Here is the complete quick build of the model. As I mentioned, I have not done any sanding of the parts, and I also have not put any clear coat on the car body. I installed the antenna from the detail part set, but I trimmed off the coil because I found it terribly overscaled. And I also add the hood pins from the detail set. The kit is now widely available, and if you cannot find it in your country, you can order it from hobbyeasy.com. I've decided to clear coat the body, so watch out for a video on how to clear coat a model with a 2K clear. Once again, I would like to thank NuNu for supplying the model for this review build, and thank you for watching. Until next time, bye bye.